Our commencement speaker is an interesting man, a famous man. I have a private theory about him that I'm going to explain, and it's an explanation why so many people love him, and the kind of people who love him. He's a famous actor. He was in the Santa Claus trilogy. He's Buzz Lightyear. A bunch of us are old men motorcycle riders, and so we really like the movie Wild Dogs. And then Home Improvement and Last Man Standing. When was the last show? Was it shown this next Tuesday? Thursday. Next Thursday is the last show of Last Man Standing. You should all watch it. Now, I haven't mentioned what is far and away his greatest movie, and one of the greatest movies ever made. It's called Galaxy Quest. I can tell you that my son-in-law was not permitted to marry my daughter until he had seen that movie and said that he liked it. I mean, what if his taste was so far off he didn't like it? And you know, it's wonderful. But why is it wonderful? Well, I think his body of work has a theme in it, and it's the reason I love it. Captain Taggart. He's a showboat, and he drinks too much. And he goes around bemoaning his faded glory and showing off on the stage to weird teenagers. But then some things happen, and he actually gets himself in a war, a big war, a dangerous war. And it emerges in this war that he was never a fraud. When he says, never give up, never surrender, echoing Winston Churchill, it emerges that he meant that. And that's why the movie is good. That's why he becomes a better man when he gets to actually do that. He's not just interested in Sigourney Weaver for her body anymore. Although I fancy that didn't go away. And he recognizes his peers in a greater act of justice than he used to do when he just hogged the limelight. Don't you see? It's what all of us want. We want to be good and fine. If we can, we want to be noble and brave. And that's why in Last Man Standing and Home Improvement, the guy's kind of a foolish guy in both cases, but also there's something reliable about that guy. And he's there when he's needed for the people who depend on him, and he depends on them. In other words, he demonstrates the hero in all of us and makes us better thereby. Tim Allen.
Woo. Thank you. How in the hell am I supposed to follow that? Good God. Anyway, Jesus, Jenny, who was he talking about? I'm sitting there. Anyway, I welcome to this room, and I'm so amazed to be here. Thank you, Dr. Arnn, and all of the faculty and the family and the friends and the donors and everybody for having me here, and of course the families and the special guests, Pat Sajak, of course, right here, all of whom must be saying, who is this again? Why is he standing there? I considered this thing so many, I said yes to this. I don't really believe I actually said yes to it. There's a lot of calls. Let me think. I got stuff to do. I got to ride my bike. I don't. It brought up so many things that I have to think about, but I was terrified of it. I really was. It's a great honor, actually, to digest this being here. Humbled is the word. I've seen almost 2 days of this on all of you people and orchestras and the students, and actually changed me. I came in with some ideas, and I now have to really flourish my ideas in my head to say what I'm going to say. This isn't Las Vegas, as some of my writers said. Please don't do your Vegas act in front of these people. I so much want to. I mean, there's some of me that, we got the Whitmer jokes out. He could say it. Why can't I do this? Breathe. No. Hey, I get it. I forget that I'm in Michigan again, and of course, pure Michigan. For the last 11 years, I've been the voice of this great state. For their tourism, thank you. I have to only share it when I'm in Michigan. I know a lot of people here aren't actually from Michigan, but when I'm doing those voice commercials, it's also stepping outside of my comfort zone, taking orders from people in studios and McCann Erickson downstate. I think I'm a big shot. I know how to talk. No, you don't. Slow it down. And I learned how to do great voiceovers for an absolutely gorgeous, magnificent state, which I adore. But every now and then you'd be in a studio and they'd go, it's after this Grand Haven and the beaches and the beautiful Michigan sunsets, fishing, walking with your family. Cut to, when you tour the great bean fields of the Saginaw Valley. And I'd have to go, can we stop for just a second? Has anybody been to the goddamn green fields of Saginaw Valley? No offense to people that live in the bean fields of Saginaw Valley, but God, I don't want to visit the bean fields of Saginaw Valley. You go to Bay City, there's a river walk, but let's move quickly past it to Quamanon Bridge and get up north. Yeah, I honor this end of the chapter in your graduate's life, the class of 2021 in Hillsdale. Applaud you guys. It is an amazing day, and now it starts a new chapter, and that's kind of where it came from to me, what my college thinking. You think of me as Mike Baxter, as you heard, Tim the Toolman, Taylor, Buzz Lightyear. All of these characters were never my goal. That's where I go off track here. I'm all of those things and literally none of those things. To be honest with you, I'm a family comedian on television. I do Disney movies, Santa Claus, for God's sakes. And the truth is, I hate children. Sorry. One of mine is right there in front of me, and she hears this. I'm fond of you. I did the Santa Claus movie, and it was one of my prayers in a bad part of my life. I asked God, I want to be on the Johnny Carson show. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed in a desperate time of my life to focus on that. I got on the Tonight Show, but never as a comedian, which is what I've been for 44 years. I was on there for Home Improvement and Santa Claus, and I was telling God, damn it, I hate children. How did you do this to me? I did a Santa Claus movie in Santa Claus outfit with children as extras. We didn't use short people or what, the Game of Thrones dude size, whatever the legal term is for that. We didn't use, I don't know what you're supposed to say anymore. You can't say any word. I live in the People's Republic of California, so we get reminded all the time what you can and cannot think or say. But I do a movie dressed as Santa Claus, and children are like cats. The more you dislike them, the more they come around you. I walked into the dressing room with the director. I said, you've got to keep these damn kids away from me. They're bugging me, asking me about this, asking me about that. He said, you got to slow down and stop using the F-bomb in front of these kids, all right? You're dressed like Santa Claus. I said, oh, hell, I am. I looked in the mirror. I said, well, I get it. And I had kids asking me, because they're wonderful, but kind of stupid. Come on, kids. You know, what does Santa Claus eat? How the hell would I know what Santa Claus eats? I come up a reindeer, I guess. I mean, it's all I could come up with. I was a lot of pressure to do this gig, so I went online and I looked up a lot of other commencement speeches, how they do them. And generally, the good ones had somehow a music track behind them. And I thought I couldn't really afford anything. I have a buddy has a polka band in Kalkaska. That didn't seem right. seemed a bit Germany Oompa-y thing. So it would help me if you visualize oboes, bass, bassoons behind me right now. It'll help with everything. Just in your head, consider a big band back here, because maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. About me, I started my love of philosophy. That's what I went to school for, religious studies, philosophy, design. That's where I started. So I say that with part of my history is the foundation of my present moment. I sit here and I accept, as everyone must, I think, the blessings in their life. But if that is true, the blessings make my life. So are the tragedies of my life and the mistakes. They define me as well as my blessings. Self-will or determination, that's been my life. All through my life, the arguments I've had with God, is it your will, or is it my will, or is it determined? If you're a philosophy major, you get into this a priori and determination. If you're a physics guy with the slit experiment, hey, it might be both. So study physics and you'll go freaking nuts. That's what'll happen. Tragedy defines something in my life. Age 11, my father was killed tragically. We lived in Denver, Colorado, and my world turned upside down. I was a popular kid in Denver schools, and I moved with my mom's family back to Detroit, outside of Detroit. During the riots, at that time it was 68, didn't know, there was tanks. That was kind of interesting to me. I said, I think I'm going to like this place. I had no idea what that was about, riots, but look, there's an army tank. I love tanks, so this is going to be a nice place to live. I was a popular kid in Denver. I moved to Detroit, outside of Detroit, where people did not wear white socks with Converse. You were mentally challenged if you wore that. My family name is Dick. I had adolescent acne. I was a new kid in the school, from popular to geeky. I knew immediately about horror, cruelty, judgment. It was in my face all the time. I reacted with anarchy like I normally do. I withdrew. I learned how to lie effectively. I mean, that's literally what I do for a living. I say shit that doesn't mean anything to me, but I hope I say it well enough that you say, hey, that's a great thing. I get dishonesty, but I also utilize my gifts of comedy to separate myself from other people. It's a good defense mechanism. I became exactly like Che Guevara once knew, you became what you resent. Every revolutionary will come up to this point where they become exactly what they hated. Just look at Cuba. Everything I envied, I was jealous of, I became that. I did what I did to become a very popular kid in the school downstate. I moved up into the popular kid, but you know what's funny about me when I thought about it? I always remember the kids that were there with me when I was geek. The AV guys, the auto shop, when they had shop, remember that? They had ethics class, remember that? Ethics, what are those things? That's the hat off thing. But all the kids that were there with me when I was a geek, never forgot them. As it turns out, every class reunion, you go back to my school, and all the geeks run companies. All the cool kids are living outside of barns. I'm going to get a job one of these days. Yep. I want disability from GM. I thought you fixed your knee. Yeah, well, now it's my other side. I worked that other side, and I got a disability thing. I was never a very good student. School got in the way of goofing around. I was sent to the principal's office. I can't tell you how many times for being a disruption in class. Now, I didn't look at it that way. I was funnier than the teacher. He hit me with a ruler once and slit me from here to here. He apologized. I said, it's not your problem. I went down. Very big problem when a teacher draws blood. I don't care what area you're in. It's not good. I come home. Every parent that I stop, oh, my God, what happened? I get home. My mother looks at me, and she goes, what did you do? The great mom there was 9 of us, raised us well, kind of. Just was fatigued at one point. Her line to me always was, Tim, you aim too high. Remember, the glass is half empty, Tim. Think about a civil service job, you know. Work for the government. Oh, God, no. All my favorite teachers all my life were the ones I hated at the time. The ones that actually taught me something. Miss Arner, English teacher at my high school. Hated that woman. But she demanded that I explain what anarchy meant to me. She didn't care that I was an anarchist. She didn't care that I didn't believe in American government. She just said, well, explain your position. That's interesting. I liked that. I didn't like teachers and professors that taught me what to do, but what to think. I don't want to give his name away. He was my painting teacher in college. He didn't like what I was painting. I hated him. I said, you're supposed to teach me how to paint, not what to paint. There's a big difference. He didn't see the difference. And by the way, your paintings suck. Horrible big elephants and stupid stuff that he painted. I never learned how to paint from him. College, that was a big deal, and here I am. I regret not going to Hillsdale. This is amazing to be sitting here. History, you teach Constitution, highest standards of education. The faculty is great. Students, look at all this stuff. Promotes critical thinking and debate. Imagine that. College doesn't take any money from the government. Yes. Yes. Come on. I would rank this school top of the heap. But I didn't want to go here. I lie. It was a talking point. There's just way too much emphasis here on grades. You know, personality, not so much, you know. And a no slam to where I went to Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant. Beautiful weather there. It's great. I think it was a minus 11 degrees every day in the middle of the summer. They had a film department where I met one of my best professors ever. Seven Samurai, which is a great movie by Kurosawa. You watch it, Seven Samurai. It was bleeding into dinner time at Wheeler Hall. A lot of the students are restless. They're getting to the end of the movie. That's the best part of that movie. Subtitles, black and white, Japanese characters. It's an amazing movie. The baseline of so many scripts you've seen today. There was 8 of us who were mesmerized. All these students, we're going to miss the buffet. Rushing back to Wheeler Hall to get college food. The instructor paused, put on the lights. He said, please leave. And the 8 of you that stick around, talk to me later. He said, put a 7 on your final report, your exams, and you all get an A in this class. Because you felt the passion. You stuck around. You gave up dorm food, whatever the hell that was. I went to Western Michigan University after that, they built the first color TV studio, and it was amazing in all the brochures. Of course, the students were allowed to use it, but they did have the first color TV studio. We had the black and white tube studio in the basement, which was weird. There, the professor was Linwood Bartley. There was an English professor who I hated also because it was an 8 o'clock class. I was a big partier, which is one reason I went to Western, because it was listed in Playboy magazines, the top 3 party schools in the country. That's where my focus was. When we walked into that class, this would be the 4th year or 3rd year college, and he was drilling people how stupid they were. He said, let me read you a term paper from a college student. And he went on to this thing, bearded Scottish guy. It was amazing. Just dogging how stupid we were. High school juniors write better than this. And he showed preposition and phrasing, and I still picked up very little because most of the time I just wanted to get out of there. There we have my first view of rudderless. I love sailing. I love being in boats. But the greatest boat of all time has no direction without a rudder. It's a very simple little thing. The only thing you control in a sailboat is the attitude of the sails, the attitude. You don't control the wind, the water, the sailboat really. You have the rudder and the attitude, and that comes back to me. I had no direction at this point. I was pointing to certain things. Not knowing what's going on next. And I applaud all of you. If there's one thing I would say that I wish I did differently was get a direction. As uncomfortable and as scary as that seemed to me. 16 years you learn from the party bosses. Yep, we're all communists when we're born because you do what the party says upstairs, you wear what they tell you what to wear, you eat what they wear. You are a communist little child. As you grow up through high school, it's kind of democratic socialism, but you're still doing what somebody's telling you to do. You learn. It's one thing at a time when you're a kid. Simple, monkey bars, what are you going to do next? Oh, I'm going to get that next little handle right there. That's the next one, very simple. Then it's people telling you, get dressed, you're going to be late, stop lighting your brothers on fire. It's one thing. That's the funniest thing about men. You've got to keep men busy. Give us, anytime as kids, you were going to hear 3 words. Hey, will it burn? 12 years of that, you get some education. I moved on to college. That's where I started making some of my own decisions on a practical level. Laundry, how to cook stuff, get to class, learn some responsibility. That's where I developed a really good relationship with what I call the ego. The ego definitely is not my amigo. Ego is always there until there's pain, trouble, or law enforcement. Then the ego gets out of your system and it hides someplace, leaving the meek, soulful guy, I'm not quite sure what just happened. Options can be a bit uncomfortable. They certainly were for me. I found that the smallest decisions that I made the greatest impact later on. It's amazing. Again, a rudder, little small declinations in that rudder can send you off a very different direction. Thornton Wilder said, I got a quote, the more decisions you are forced to make alone, the more you're aware of your freedom to actually choose. Freedom to choose is something to celebrate. Do it here. You taught about it. However, it gets complex because there's good choices and then choices that are all the opposite of that are bad choices. At a certain point in my life, I'm just not going to decide, which in fact, philosophically a paradox, no choice is actually a choice. Didn't seem to me at the time, excuse me. So there I am, graduating from college, no clue what I was going to do because I never thought about it. I was too busy partying and not listening. So I decided to go into sales. Wasn't what I studied, but you can make a lot of money in sales. Unless it's the wrong kind of thing you're selling. So there I am in a federal penitentiary going, now what mistake did I make here? I learned a lot in prison, I really did. You right out of a good family structure. I will give you a humanities lesson. Prison isn't everything that you fear it is. It isn't everything that you think it is. At one point, there's a holding cell where 16 of us are put into a room waiting after sentencing where they're going to send you off into whatever chain mail they put you in. And there was a commode in the middle of the room. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to die. I'm like, I can't do this. Can't do my thing. I can't do it. There's no way. I waited till late at night, and I was thinking in my head, does the human body eventually just explode? I don't even know what happens if you just don't use the commode. I gave up. I got up, sat down. People coming out of their cots, they said, oh God, here it comes, some sort of whipping or some sort of... They stood in a horseshoe around me, staring at me, and as I proceeded, they all turned around and formed a privacy hood around me. There's humanity where you least expect it, people. But I also learned one thing I've told every group that's asked me, what'd you learn in prison? I said, the biggest lesson about prison is don't ever sell drugs to cops. That's it. It's not fair. Now it's legal. And now California is on corners. They sell it because it's good for you. It's legal. And I remember Obama used to say it's not fair. I'd usually say, what the hell does that mean? Just take that word apart. Fair, what the hell does it mean? I tweeted it was, got in real trouble because it got, Twitter. You never know what you're going to say to piss them off. And I got some guy from Iowa says, fair is where a pig goes to win a ribbon. People are often shocked, as we have some good neighbors that didn't know that I'd done any time, said, that's amazing. You're not the type of guy that would end up in prison. Let me tell you, everyone can be that type of guy. It's about missing opportunities, being rudderless. It's about choices. God, you're right here, guys. I was missing mentorship, decision-making, any kind of moral compass, even though I went to church all my life, although never quite understood it. Because I was an Anglican Episcopalian, so when the bishop came, I was an altar boy. He had that garbage can on his head or whatever that weird basket is. And I was whispering, what part of the Bible is that mentioned, that thing, the conal thing? No answer from the bishop. He wasn't allowed to talk to me. You got to be in that little kneel on some little weird thing and you can't move. And I was wobbling the whole time, didn't have enough liquid. Anyway. Moments of clarity have helped me all my life, and that is the grace of God to me. And even though I didn't ever admit it, and after the death of my father, I hated God of my misunderstanding, but every now and then, right before I was sentenced to my well-deserved crime, I had a moment of clarity, go on stage. And downstate in Detroit, I set up for the Comedy Castle, wrote 20 minutes of material, went and practiced, left them laughing, did all the things required of me, and focused and engaged. The owner said, you got what it takes. I think he put you on the Saturday schedule. It's going to be great every Saturday. And I go, look at me, a little problem. I think I got to do 38 months before that Saturday. To this day, that guy always mentioned how dry I was. Oh, great, Saturday. Well, that'll be in 38 months. That's kind of a Saturday. And he goes, it happened, though. It gave me something to look forward to. Viktor Frankl's great book, Man's Search for Meaning. In no way do I assume any of that, but he pointed his energy to engagement on something past the horror that he was going through. Amazing book. Aim where you want to go, not where you don't want to be. That's what I learned in racing. I used to race Ford, Trans Am for Ford Motor Company. Went through race school. And if you stare at the wall long enough that you don't want to hit, guess what? You're going to go hit that wall. Do not aim where you don't want to be. Keep that off of your radar. Aim where you want to go. Passion. That's what it was. Learn what your passion was. Make better choices, I thought, when I was incarcerated. Passion. Look it up. If you look it up, Webster's, if you can believe him. Webster says, whoever Webster is, Webster says passion, intense sexual desire. Whoops. All right. That's a bit awkward. Let's go to number 2. They have another one underneath it. A love or desire or devotion to some activity, object, or concept, an emotion that is deeply stirring, ungovernable. Right. Another moment of clarity for me. I started reading biographies of people unlike me, what they did, and believe it or not, I don't care whether different gender, different tribe, they did things that, well, I could do that. It was formidable to me. Another moment of clarity is accomplishments are relative. In prison, if you do what you're told, and I did what I was told finally, I needed that guidance. I did exactly what I was told, mentored other people in the religious studies. I did Toastmasters. And eventually, you get out of group cells, you get out of the dorms, you get eventually moved into you move up the food chain. I was so proud of my move when I called my mother on a collect call, which it always have to be, from the prison. Thanksgiving, I could hear my family in the kitchen chattering, and she goes, hold on, Tim's on the phone. What's up, Tim? Guess what, Mom? I got my own cell. Hold on a minute. Hey, Tim's got his own cell, everybody. That's good. Dave just got into U of M. Bruce just graduated. Steve's at Purdue, but Tim's got his own cell. Thank God I've got something to tell the Bridge Club. Don't call here again. How do you know what your passion is? For me, I knew what it wasn't. I was lucky enough to get a job at Tool and Die because I love cars. I love building cars. I got a Tool and Die shop job over a summer between my semesters at Western. And I made locating pins on a Sheldon turret lathe. I realized I never could do that without killing myself. You made 80 locating pins a day. That's what you do. It's 126 different movements. That's it. I so applaud anybody that has the peace of mind to do that. I'm too ADD. I could not do that. Knowing what you don't want focuses on what I did want. Lily Tomlin did a one-woman show, which was terrific, by the way. Played a homeless person. She said, I should have set my goals more specifically what I wanted to do instead of a homeless girl. Set goals. It was really the way she said it. Make people laugh to me. All my life has been more rewarding than anything, and I never thought of that as passion. That's what it was. Don't repeat this. I would probably do my concerts for free. Now the ego goes, bullshit. That's the only use for the ego, really, is dealing with the IRS. That's what you need. I just have to, this just was this week. The IRS had a refund check coming to my office for a considerable amount of money. They had trouble finding me. It's 2 years. They couldn't find me. But they could find me immediately to tell me that they couldn't find me. And when you're audited, do they have any trouble finding you? No. Can't even say what's on my mind about the IRS. Goal setting. There's a difference. Juan Montoya, the race driver, said focus is different than goals. Wishing is different than focus, rather. Wishing I was successful is one thing. Focusing on successes, they sound the same, they're not the same. Aim where you want to go, not where you don't want to be. You have to, wishing to me is like sitting in a car and revving the engine. Well, it seems like we're moving. The motor's running, everything, I'm in the car. You're just putting stress on the engine. Focus and goals, put it in gear, engage and go. That means making move, go, engage. They seem very similar, but they're not. I read about successful people in my job. It was more about people. Then I started zeroing in on people that you have to go 1961 to see Lenny Bruce's speech at the Purple Onion. You can't even talk about it on Twitter now. Go read what that guy said about language and thought. What that comedian said, he went dark after that, but his story is amazing. Richard Pryor, who I saw in Detroit once, changed my life. The way he could do that, that became what I wanted to do. What are the diversions? Making goals is one thing, but making a list, this is where I make the biggest impact on my life, and it sounds so simple, and I will challenge you all to do this. 3 things you write down. Make a list of what you're going to do the rest of the day. Make a list of what you're going to do this year, and the most difficult one, and don't tell anybody but yourself, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Sounds simple. The 1 will tell you how to do number 2, and 2 will tell you how to set up to do number 3. What do you want to do? I didn't know. My goal list, when I started it, 20 minutes on the set that was hot as hell. I did not want to be an opening act. I wanted to be a closing act. I got that. Number 2, I wanted to save $100,000, and literally I had no way to do that. I finally did that, and I got a lot of toasters. Early on, you kept moving your money to different banks. They give you toasters as some weird kind of appliance. And so I was living with my parents because I was on parole. My mom said, what are all these toasters doing in here? Just wait, a little appliance store. I'll figure out something to do with these things. And the 3rd was to get on The Tonight Show somehow. I explained that. I did it on The Tonight Show, but I was ungrateful and pissed at God. I wanted to be a comedian on The Tonight Show. Then add value to everything I set up to do. This was something I learned from the great Bob Seger. He said, put butts in the seats. Add value to the situation you're in. I don't care what situation I was in, I added value to it. It was different when I was gone. Engage, put butts in the seats. In my business, it was it. Learn how other people put butts in the seats, and the club owner, the business. If you can sell, you can do anything you want to do. Having no vision is no solution. Everything depends on execution. That's a lyric in the song. I've got a great idea, and that's where it ends. You watch the Shark Tank every now and then, you watch this motivation of people that get stuff done. It's amazing to watch that thing. Also, I suggest getting fired. That was a great thing. I got fired a lot. I kind of liked it. I lived for it. Thomas Edison, he said, opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. Mark Twain said, the harder I tried, the luckier I got. It takes hard work and patience. I didn't know that. I failed at that, and that's why I ended up where I was. Big thing that stopped me was diversions. I called diversions. And the biggest one, because I'm in a cult written by Bill Wilson, and it's false evidence appears real, which is fear. Fear stopped me from doing everything coherent in my life. I was afraid of shadows. Great story. I took my older daughter to school once, and a shadow came across the windshield. I shrieked, and I pulled into it, almost hit a tree. And the fear of what was going to happen was caused by a butterfly flying between the sun and my car, and that shadow. The fear of that was huge. I'm scared of butterflies now? This is awkward. People spend a lot of energy spinning wheels, irrationally on fear. Again, Mark Twain. I've had a lot of troubles in my life, most of which never happened. It will stop you. And of course, my favorite, ego. Boy, not my amigo. I always think of ego as a necessary, I can't even remember the name of the book. As soon as we had a moment to think about our activities, men will light a match, women will think it's doing something useful, men will just, I wonder if it hurts to do that. Here, try that, stick it. Yeah, that hurts, you try it. No, that really hurts. This tastes terrible. Here, try that. Why would I eat that? But I did. My older brother, this makes me throw up. Here, you try it. It makes me throw up too. Okay, let's keep eating that. You can't have a human being that's grateful with his hands full of toys. Every little baby I've ever had have toys in their arms. As soon as you pull out another toy, they go, mine, mine, mine. As if God was saying, you have your hands full. I can't give you anything more unless you let some of that go. You got to pass it along. You got to move it along. And babies, I don't think we ever really grow out of that. Get out of your own way. That was my problem. God's always there in my life, but he's polite and doesn't like to interrupt. Constantly talking to myself. And the ego pretends to be good, in me anyway. My best advice that I never took, again, I love these, Albert Einstein said famously, I hope someone invents air conditioner. Oh, that wasn't him. That was a joke somebody wrote from me. I'm not taking credit for that because it just didn't land. He actually said, I'm not a genius, I'm passionately curious. Curiosity, man, that was great. Of course, my mom said, it killed the cat. Well, I'm not a goddamn cat. What does that have to do with me? I don't understand that. It's an asset. It's an asset. On every level, question. Right now, I wished I'd question more instead of running out of graduation, just ran out and did what I always do is divert. Curiosity is a tremendous asset. If you want to be the smartest person in the room, question the smartest person in the room. Learn to be a great listener. God bless it. Learn to be a great listener. Shut up and listen. Shut up and listen. And you've been around great professors and a great speaker back here. Jesus, Jenny. If you want to be interesting, you have to be interested. Ultimately, these are the questions I had to ask myself, and I wished I'd asked them. Literally, wish somebody had asked them before the penitentiary. Although Saturday breakfast wasn't bad. And you always knew what to wear. I did like that. I hate clothes. I think I'm going with khaki today. Maybe a white t-shirt. Ultimately, this is a new chapter. And I can't tell you how you guys affected me, those I've met in that orchestra. Your faces, your intelligence, I don't know. It's amazing. So what kind of person do you want to be? You're already a damn good start. Between your parents and this place, you guys are a damn good start. It's not where I was. I wish someone had asked me that. Are you going to be a person with integrity? Are you going to take responsibility for your actions? I made amends to my mother for all that I did. I paid her back for everything. Doesn't seem to be enough. Can you be flexible and let go of rigid, bad experiences? Are you open to other points of view? Listen to the other point of view before you jump in and tell them yours. Are you going to complain about things, or are you going to figure out how to fix it? And how do you handle accomplishments? And I said, I've been blessed with people giving me credit up here, and I never even thought about it. When you achieve success, will you be possibly the type of person that reaches out and give freely what you get to others? It's very difficult to do because it's mine. You want to become the person you admire, because the only person I cannot get away from is me. I mean, I'm here every time I go. I go over there and I'm still standing over there. So no matter what argument I'm having with myself, I'm right here again, still here. Humans are not plants. I've heard that. We need each other. There's a story that changed another one of these watershed moments in my life. Me and God have had this weird relationship, and as a philosopher and studied so much, you end up asking dark questions, and there's no answer to it. As some famous guy in one of my scripts said, it's only God's will when we like it. If we don't like it, that's free will. That's Satan. Well, didn't God invent Satan? No, he couldn't invent Satan. I don't know. Didn't he harden the Pharaoh's heart? Couldn't he just let him go? I had these questions as a kid. So I've always had these problems with the God of my misunderstanding. I had a terrible racing car accident and ripped open a big fissure in my gut. So they have to close up the gut. But for a period of time, you have to use called a stoma to remove waste products. So there's a tube sticking out of my side, and there's a tube sticking out of my throat. I'd had some family problems at the same time. I was losing weight. It was not getting better. And I stayed in the hospital, and a buddy came by who has since passed, dear friend of mine, but he came by with a movie, and another friend came by to talk. Didn't want to see anybody, but I did. And then they gave me food for the first time. And the doctor came in, not even moments later. It was about a half hour later. He saw the look on my face. He goes, I knew what he knew. It wasn't working. My digestive system wasn't working. And I started weeping, and he said, this is going to be very uncomfortable because we can't go in through the suture. We have to find other ways to go get that food out, and it can't go down your throat. I don't want to be horribly dramatic about that. It just was, everything was bad news. And he said, and it's going to get worse and worse until we get it out. So he woke me up at 3 in the morning to do the worst they could do. I'm standing there. You can't imagine the humility that I felt, what was on my body. I was standing there looking out of a window at Los Angeles saying, please, dear Father, this is as bad, this is as low as I can get. It can't get any lower than this. It would be just, could you tell me something? And the way I pled it, please say something to me. And within moments, a voice that was my voice, and I swear as I stand here, was not my voice, said, it's going to be okay. It's real. It changed. I still get pissed at him. I still don't stay grateful, but it is so true in my heart that this is a real deal. We are in this thing together. You're going to, however you want to believe it, I really believe it's right here. And all my philosophy aside and all my physics stuff doesn't explain the connection that this has. And I said, I want to say to this class of 2021, go forth and conquer. You come from a very good place. You've got the best fertilizer, the best seeds, sows, and all that. Listen to what people tell you. Learn from the teachers you have. Focus, because you got a world out there that's out of focus, and the substitute teachers in the room. There are no adults. There are no adults in the room. We need you. You got to save the world. No pressure. No pressure. We're counting on you. Thank you all for inviting me here. Don't take life too seriously. I had made a living on that. And one of my best friends in the world will say as I leave here, you guys are headed to infinity and beyond. Yeah.
I have a lot of evidence that that was a great speech by your reaction, but a particular one proves it. My wife has a way of looking at me sideways with amused disapproval whenever I'm showing off. And she's had her look on that look on her face for the last 25 minutes. Naughty boy kind of look. I want to introduce Tim Allen's wife, Jane, and his daughter, who has yesterday become a member of the class of 2033. Would you stand up, please? Yeah. And don't worry about these people immediately behind you. The worst of them will probably be dead by then. Tim, please come. In thanking you for being here and for your career, which is a great thing. And on behalf of the faculty of Hillsdale College and with the authority invested in me by its Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you the honorary degree, Doctor of Fine Arts. Thank you.